What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
And you are listening to Liquid Carnage. How are you, my friend?
I'm feeling very old, brother. Very old.
You did have a birthday over the weekend.
I aged 1 full year since the last time we talked.
Oh, you are starting your son.
I know. So the 50th year has already started, and I'm feeling old because I went to bed on Friday night. I was 48, and then I was 49 on Saturday, and I immediately felt like I had aged a year.
And I just to clarify for some people who can't quite do the math on that, before you turn 1 year old, you do go around the sun one time. So this is your 50th trip around the sun, but you are 49 years old. That would be confusing to some of our listeners.
Yeah, I had a lot of people that when I told that I started my 50th year, they would say, "Oh, you're 50?"
Like, no.
And that's why I've tried to make it a fast rule that when I encounter people that are not smart, then I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't dive too much into wasting my time explaining things.
Well, I'll tell you, I think you have Janice very excited about the prospect of your actual 50th birthday taking place around a Renaissance festival.
Oh, I know.
Medieval times.
Medieval times, yeah. That's definitely going to happen. I've called it out now that I am seriously considering making it part of my life's vision and work to go to every single medieval times across the world.
You know what? I will put this offer out there to save Noreen some headache if she wants. I will take her place in those visits.
Okay, yeah.
You and I will go on adventures to each medieval times throughout the greater North American regions, if not further.
I think that's important for a little background on the story. So for those of you who may or may not know, I have never been a fan of anything medieval, like going to those dinners where you eat things with your hands or going to a Renaissance festival. And Noreen has taken quite a lot of pleasure of keeping that hope alive that we'll go to medieval times. So every time we start talking about things to do, she'll always say, "Hey, why don't we go to medieval times? Why don't we go to medieval times?" And every time I roll my eyes. At our recent visit with Scott and Janice, one of the things that we talked about is, hey, maybe for your 50th birthday, when people are down here, one of the events can be medieval times. And I decided to say, you know what? Not only am I going to embrace that, but now I want to go to every single medieval times, every single Renaissance festival that I can go to. And she says, whoa, hold on now. Let's not talk crazy. I said, no. You've inspired me. I think you made me a believer now. You've made me a believer. So
this is a thing. This is what we're doing. Get on the train.
This is now our life. In fact, I've already got, and what I'm planning on doing for the birthday parties, I'm going to order the costumes for everyone so that we can make sure that we're all in costume when we go to medieval times.
Oh, wow.
And I think that'll help everyone get into the spirit as much as I'm in the spirit.
So do I get to be a knight, or am I a friar, or because clearly you're the king since it's your birthday?
Well, you know what though, you have to be careful though, because some people look more kingly than I do. Like I might be more of a bard.
Buddy, it's your birthday. Everybody gets to be king for a day on their birthday.
I know, but I can do whatever I want. So if I want to assign you, like for example, if I want to assign you King Scott, and I'll be the bard, or I will be the jester, then I can do that.
That's fair. That is fair. It is your birthday.
Yeah.
But I am just saying, I would be honored to be the first knight of King Edgeworth or King Kurtzworth.
The only thing I'm worried about though is I don't want you walking around in all that metal all night because it's going to get hot. It's August. It's going to be hot, and I just feel like it would just be really uncomfortable.
No, I'll just have to throw some talcum powder down there. That's
okay. There we go.
That's really not your concern. That's more Janice's problem at the end of the night too.
You know, yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I think it's everyone's problem, but yeah. So now we're good. We're doing it, man. We're doing it. So something to look forward to next year.
That's very true. Now, to get to that point, this time next year, the world's going to look a lot different in August 2022 than it does in August 2021. And what I'm talking about.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Listen, the world right now is a whole lot different than it was this time last year. It's a little bit more on fire. But what I'm talking about is we are a few weeks away from the FDA approving the Pfizer vaccine, and which means Moderna is probably not far behind. And once those vaccines get fully FDA approved, the world as we know it will change because those will become a requirement.
so what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that because they were emergency approved by the FDA, that they were not a requirement to anybody, but once they become approved, they will be a requirement.
They were not a requirement initially. What we're seeing in the world I live in is a lot of the big corporations that control healthcare, like Kaiser, Dignity, Banner. They're all making it required. The military came out today and said by September 15th, every soldier must be vaccinated. So once you start seeing the model of vaccination move to that because of the new OSHA laws, I think you'll see a lot more companies push for vaccination mandates internally because of the fact they don't want to have to pay for sick leave for people that are out with COVID and pay to have all the plexiglass and changes made that OSHA is going to require if you're not vaccinated.
Well, now, I didn't hear about the military, but will they
That just came out today. I just read that today.
Okay. Well, will the military allow for soldiers to like be honorably discharged or generally discharged if they decide, no, I don't want the vaccine?
I'm not sure on that yet. I don't know.
Because that's been one of the big arguments. In a free society, we shouldn't have to be forced to do anything, whether it's good for us or not. We shouldn't have to be forced to do that.
Yeah, I get that. I look at this as a lot like the polio vaccine. Everybody was on board. The problem with this versus the polio vaccine way back when, we didn't have a 24-hour news cycle when that vaccine came out to kill that pandemic or that ongoing sickness. So I think we have to get to a point where we're stopping to politicize COVID and the vaccines and all the information that goes with it. I'm not sure when that's going to be a thing.
Do you think that though that it's because it was not fully endorsed by or approved by the FDA that's where the issue has come into play in terms of why because I hear that that's a really common concern for people who have not been vaccinated is that, hey, it's not approved by the FDA. So why would I take something that hasn't been approved by the FDA? Do you think that when it becomes FDA approved, that'll change people's minds?
I don't. I think that was a crutch. I honestly think that was a crutch to buy people time, not knowing what the timeline was going to be, knowing the variants that are coming. It's going to be harder for people who are employed by bigger corporations to avoid being vaccinated.
I know that they've been having some real issues with hospitals because a lot of the hospitals now are saying that their employees need to be vaccinated, and there's still people who, for whatever reason, don't want to get the vaccine, and they're being saying, "Why are you forcing me to get a vaccine that I don't want to get?" So I
don't know. I look at it like the flu shot. Nobody wants the flu shot, most of the time, but we still take it. We're still required to get it at the hospital. It's one of those. It's just another vaccine.
Well, and I think that the people who don't want to get the vaccine, the chances of death from getting flu on a numbers game, while there is a risk of death, it's a much smaller number of the chance of you dying from not getting a flu vaccine and getting the flu than it is for COVID. The death rate is much higher for people who get COVID and then people who die from COVID. So, but I know that's been an argument that I've heard a lot of people say is that, how can you force me to take a vaccine that hasn't even been FDA approved? Which I don't know.
We have a friend that I go back and forth over this, and that was his reasoning was, well, it's not FDA approved. I said it's emergency use FDA approved, which means it's still technically FDA approved. It's just they don't have it hasn't gone through all of the normal research that they would do to go through with it, but they've deemed it safe as it is. And the response to that is like, well, it took years to develop all these other vaccines, and this was developed so fast. And that goes back to simple just education. This vaccine is built off of the COVID SARS vaccine. And also, we have technology that is far, far superior now than it was back in the 40s and 50s when polio and other vaccines were being invented,
Well, I think the other thing is that frankly, this drug has been tested by such a larger population because you have numbers on 170 million people
Yeah.
just in the United States, not to mention all over the world. Maybe it's a billion people
Well, the
all
other,
over the world
yeah.
who have had so to say that it hasn't been thoroughly tested, no, we have the tests. Maybe they're not clinical, but you have certainly a larger population of people. This one probably has a larger population of people who have taken the the vaccine with test results that are out there to show whether this vaccine is safe or whether it's dangerous,
Yeah.
versus like what are most clinical trials? Maybe 10,000 people,
Something like that. Yeah.
maybe 100,000. This is probably a billion people have taken this vaccine. So if that's not a large enough sample size for someone to know whether or not a vaccine is a viable option,
Well,
boy, I don't know how much more I don't know what putting an FDA like a full FDA approval is going to do to change.
well, the next argument turns into like, well, I don't know what the long term effects are. I don't know what's in it, so I don't know what the long term effects are. And my response to that is, you don't know what half the things in your food is, and you don't know what the long term effects of those are. But they're still FDA approved, so
They do say that a lot of the food that has like all the meat and stuff has all the steroids, and chicken has steroids, that it does have an impact on our bodies. That's why we have a large obesity rate. That's why we have cancer sometimes. You're where does this come from?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's interesting. It's to me, it's always a very interesting debate. And you look at professional sports and how they've managed to mitigate it last year versus this year. You just kind of watch the evolution of it all to empty stadiums to limited capacity, and now the NFL's gone to all 32 teams can have full capacity in all of their stadiums, and we're in the middle of a surge of this Delta variant. And once you let that genie out of the bottle of allowing people back to go do things, you're not going to be able to put them back in. Now we're going to have to live amongst this and deal with it.
Yeah, well, part of me also asked the question too, is that, you know, eh, should people be able to decide that no, I'm not gonna wear a mask, I'm not gonna get vaccinated.
Sure,
I should be able to live my life. I should be able to do my
sure.
thing and go forward with that. Um, you know, should that be something that's legislated or that's mandated by the government?
You know that
Because obviously the government has to look at the public good as much as the individual's
there
rights.
there are 4 states that have quote unquote banned mask mandates: Florida, Texas, Arkansas, and Arizona. Florida is setting records every day right now for COVID. Texas, probably not far behind. Arkansas's governor has gone on record saying he wishes he didn't sign that banning of the mask mandate because of how bad it's getting in Arkansas right now, and how much it's hurting his people. So I think
Okay.
that goes a long way. Arizona, we have a ban on the mask mandate too, and our idiot governor is being ripped for it, but he doesn't care. Didn't mean to editorialize right there, but I just don't like the guy, even before COVID. But it's interesting because a man that was so anti-mask, lit the government intervening is now going back and saying, "Oh, that was a problem. I shouldn't have done that. Like we should have left masks going or that option at least because there are certain things we can't stop from happening now."
Well, I think all of us have read the stories about the people now who are getting infected, and gosh, why did I not do this? Why did
Oh
I,
yeah,
and some of those stories are really sad, like the one in Texas from the state congressman who's anti-mask, anti-vaccine, and within 6 days he was dead from
you know,
COVID.
and to
And I'm
me,
like, geez, that I mean, you talk about a sad asterisk to this whole thing is, we are still talking about people's lives. And, I have a coworker who is kind of anti-vaccine, anti-mask, thinks it shouldn't be your requirements. Our work makes it a requirement that if you're in the office and you're in an enclosed area, you have to wear a mask. If you're sitting at your desk, that's fine. Or if you've been vaccinated, you're fine. And she was saying, well, I don't believe in this. I don't think that they should be telling us what to do. And I said, yeah, I think everyone feels that way until you lose someone to COVID.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell me that losing someone to COVID wouldn't alter your thoughts a little. You can't tell me that it wouldn't change your thought process a little, for what, 625,000 people now in the United States who've lost family members. I mean, some people lost whole families to COVID. I mean, I would think I'd be interested to see what tracking someone who may feel like anti-mask, anti-vaccine, then they lose someone, and then what their thoughts are after that problem or that experience.
It's all a very curious curve to watch. When the mask first came out last year, it was to protect yourself and protect everybody around you because you weren't putting the droplets of water in the air. And then it turned into I don't want to wear a mask, I don't need to, it's not real, or it doesn't help, so what's it matter? And then the memes came and made it worse. And that's the problem with the internet. The internet makes everything worse in spite of its best efforts. And now the vaccination comes out, and if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you're not vaccinated, you should wear a mask. And then even if you're vaccinated, you should wear a mask because you could spread it to someone who's not vaccinated. And that's kind of where I drew the line. I'll openly admit, man, I have to wear it at work, and that's it. I don't wear it anywhere else because, and this is my general feeling, and I'm not the one that feels this way. I don't care if you're not vaccinated or why. You can go ahead and live your life. And if I'm asymptomatic and I happen to pass it on to you, as that's the risk you're willing to take, and that's the consequence you have to have.
Well, yeah, and I think there is a slight difference between I don't believe in masks, I don't believe in vaccines, and it's all a hoax.
Yeah.
Or it's not real. This is all made up for political gains. The people who still think that it's a big hoax, if you don't want to wear a mask or you don't want to get vaccinated, while I did not, but I don't believe in the same thing that you do. Hey, your choice. You are more than welcome to make that choice, and I hope and pray that nothing bad happens to you or anyone in your family. But people who believe it's a hoax, which there are still some people out there that think this is a big hoax. I just wow. I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. That goes back. You are helping nobody by saying it's a hoax. You're helping nobody.
That goes back to, you saying it right on the head. If they don't want it, they're not going to believe it anyway. And if they think it's a hoax, then fine, think it's a hoax. Then you shouldn't mind going along with this little play that the rest of us are dealing with. You can call us sheep, you can call us whatever, but when you catch it, do not have remorse saying you wish you would have gotten, you wish you would have believed it, because you've been warned. It's out there. I've seen people go to the ventilator for 3-4 weeks with this, and it's unfortunate. And how some of these people have survived is beyond me. It's the grace of God, but it's not something you want to mess with. And people,
well, I saw, yeah,
they rely on the fact that it's 99% survival rate. So what's the problem? Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You can think that. But that 1%, it just takes one person, of someone that you love, someone that you're close to, that has an underlying condition that could be exacerbated because of this sickness. That's what it takes. And you're not doing this free. If you're healthy, fine, man, more power to you. But you don't know what someone else's situation is. And it's a dick move to undercut somebody else and potentially get them sick because you don't think it's real, or you don't want to take the time to do real research and stay off the internet.
Well, and another thing I think about too is the fact that when it finally does become approved, you're right. There's going to be a percentage of those people that are not vaccinated that still won't get the vaccine, and they'll get it for some other reason. I mean, they'll say they're not getting it for another reason, which then tells me that it doesn't matter what you do. It
Yeah,
does not matter what you do; they will not get the vaccine. And like you said, it's fine. But do you think that there will ever? I couldn't imagine. But what if hospitals who are overworked and overwhelmed with people finally say, "Look, if you don't have a vaccine, we can't help you."
I imagine that day could be coming.
You
And
think
people
so?
and people don't want to say, "Oh, that's not true. That's not true." You can never say never. I don't think people understand how understaffed and overworked most hospitals are right now. I don't think people understand the amount of hours the staffs are going through to try to keep everything going, supplies they're running through, and what happens from that is the burnout's getting to be so high. There are medical professionals, literal medical professionals, nurses, respiratory therapists, etc. They would rather go work at Walmart because the job is way less stressful.
Yeah,
It,
I mean, they had a story about Austin today that came out saying that there's 2.3 million people that live in the Austin area, and there's 14 ICU beds available.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, so the either the hospitals will start saying, "Look, if you have not been vaccinated, we don't have room for you," or the hospital staffs will say, "You know what? I'm going to Walmart."
yeah.
And I'm done taking care of people who have not been vaccinated.
Well, that becomes an employment strategy later on too. It's if you're going to mandate this vaccine at some point, that's fine. But at what point do you do that? Because there, the longer you wait, the less options people have that don't want to get it that are in the healthcare field. If they want to stay in that field, they're going to have to one way or the other eventually get that vaccine.
Do you think that companies and hospitals should mandate the vaccine?
I don't have a problem with it. Uh, I'll admit I'm vaccinated, so I don't think it's a big deal. But I don't have a problem with it. If they think they should, then by all means, it's their money, it's their business, and if they want to operate their business at the level they need it to operate at, go for it.
Yeah, I I'm kind of torn on this one because while I totally understand that, now you're messing with my livelihood by, forcing me to do that. It's kind of like it's the same thing where when companies with insurance, they would charge a higher or a higher premium rate on the insurance for people who smoked than
Yeah,
people who didn't. I was always questioning about that too. Is like, how did they particularly take smokers and not morbidly obese people or not diabetics and do the same thing? But I feel like they these companies are trying to do something, saying, "Look, if you want to work for us, we want to be safe, we want to be good. We're making it a priority." And I don't know what else to do. Uh, I guess the science shows that people who are not vaccinated are more likely to get sick and more likely to die from it than people who are vaccinated. And
yes.
people, so if that's not enough logic, when they say that 100% of the people that are dying from COVID are unvaccinated people, that tells me a lot.
Yeah,
That tells me a lot.
but the same problem is there's 10 other articles that are half research that they'll tell you, there's still a 99% survival rate. So if you can survive it, then what's the problem? Just deal with it. And people get the messages confused and mixed up, and that becomes a problem.
Well, what I don't understand though is there's a lot of public figures that talk negatively about the vaccine, but yet have the vaccine. So, like, why would you
Yeah,
do that? Like, you want to talk bad about it, but you got it,
that's that. I
and
got into
maybe.
I got into a discussion about that with a colleague, we'll call them, about that. Because I went off on a tangent. Said part of the problem we have is, people are watching Fox News and they're saying don't get the vaccine, and they're not getting the vaccine. But the problem is they're saying don't get the vaccine when they're all vaccinated. So that level of hypocrisy is not being pushed far enough. So or made people aware of enough. So what's the problem here? There's a big hypocrisy issue, and where are we going to stand with it? That's the other side.
Yeah, and I wish I was smart enough to know other examples of things that people do that aren't required, but they do them anyways for their protection.
Yeah,
Like why should I be forced to have a fire alarm or a fire smoke detector in my house? You force me to have a smoke detector in my house. Well, yeah, you don't have to, but you increase the risk. Why wouldn't you? It's
Yeah.
there. I mean, there's no mandate. I'm trying to think of other examples and I can't, so I'll stop there. But I mean, there are other instances where things are forced upon us. Car insurance,
Yeah.
that's forced on you. Why don't people complain about that and say, well, I'm a good driver. Why should I have to pay for car insurance?
Because this is the world we live in now, and we have gotten so stupid as a society. We are literally starting to live in idiocracy, that old Luke Wilson movie. And the problem is we rely so much on other people's words and their quote unquote research. We don't do our own. And when we don't do our own, we have a world that we have right now where it's just complete shit.
Well, and with car insurance, a perfect example is, once again, it doesn't really matter whether you're safe or not. You have to be responsible for all the other people. And we've learned that the consequences of not being smart when you're driving your car and not having insurance can destroy you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, no
That's
one
fair.
ever complains about that. Why do they pass laws that make me get car insurance? Never. No one ever, like, I've never heard anyone say, well, there's no proof that I'm ever going to get an accident. My mom has been driving for 60 years, has never been in a car accident. Never. And she still has to get car insurance. Now, would it be fair for her to complain, well, why are you guys forcing me to get car insurance when I don't get in accidents?
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
fair.
I mean, I don't know the answer, but I mean, it seems like there are probably lots of situations where we are forced to do things that we don't want to do, yet we don't complain as much as we do with the vaccine. Well, no one's going to tell me what I can do or what I need to do or what don't do. You know what? If you probably looked at it, there's probably 10 things right now that we can look at and say we are forced to do something that we don't need, don't want to do, and yet we do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Health insurance is another one. Why do you
It's
force me to take health insurance? I mean, I guess the difference is, no, you don't have to take health insurance, but most people don't say, well, screw that, I'm not going to pay for health insurance.
It's interesting to watch the ex-military personnel who don't mind getting the shot, because they're of the minds like, well, I got poked enough in the military for this vaccine and that vaccine, and what's one more that's quote unquote experimental at this point. So, it just becomes a way of a mindset. And at the end of the day, if you're going to do your research, because we're getting close to the end of the show here, if you're going to do your research, make sure you check out vetted sites that are accurate, and you're not clicking on articles from Facebook that are Russian troll bots, or listening to people that are vaccinated telling you not to do it because it's bad. Because there's a lot of hypocritical statements out there. And I will happily admit, for every 10 articles saying why you should, there's 10 articles saying why you shouldn't. And on both sides, just do their research. Make sure they're valid. Make sure they're accurate, because at the end of the day, it's still your body and it's still your life. And you have to be willing to know the risks that you're going to take.
Well, and I think I would also just tell people, to think about your lives and think about the number of things that you are required to do that you don't think are necessary. And think about how much you really complain about those things.
That's true. That's true.
And if there are things in this world that you actively complain about that you are forced to do that you don't feel like you should do, then your vaccine should be no different. But taxes are another thing. I'm sure we could get into that in another topic, but we're forced to do that, right?
That's true.
We're forced to do that. I don't want to do that. And there's an argument whether there's a supreme benefit to that. But with the vaccine, there's probably other things that we're forced to do that are for our benefit, but we don't want to do them.
So if there's something that you have to do, but you don't want to do it, but you're required, even though it's not law, we want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have ideas for the EP up in Denver, what to do with this last remaining few Sundays before football starts, he wants to hear it. Hit him up at Liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
Good episode, my friend. Good episode.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a very divisive topic right now, and I know you and I both sit on the same side of the fence with it. And we try to give the other side in most cases, but at the end of the day, if we want a shot at getting back to normal, to getting back to a way of life that we've been used to for the rest of for 99% of our lives, do your research, get the damn shot.
Well, and I guess I don't think I take it as harsh. I understand if people don't want to get the shot. I understand that. But let's be honest, Scott, we had a friend die unnecessarily because they didn't take care of health things
Yeah,
that they could have taken care of.
yeah.
And I don't know whether or not that was because, they refused to do that or not, but I certainly don't want to have to deal with a friend or a loved one go through the type of death that some of these people with COVID are going through and think back, said, man, if they would have just gotten the shot, this wouldn't be happening. I don't want that.
No, I agree.
I don't want that. Now, that's all I'm going to say about it, because I do agree. Hey, if you don't, hey, if your work makes you have to get a mask or have to get an inoculation, and you don't want to do that, you're more than welcome to quit your job. And we've heard that from a lot of people who've told us the same argument. Well, you can always quit your job.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't like what's so. So I'll give people who don't, who think that the mask mandates at work are silly or whatever. Hey, I agree with you 100%. You have the freedom to get whatever job you want.
But as time goes on, those jobs, the companies that don't require it, are going to get less and less and less.
Interesting.
Yep. With that being said, Jason, go ahead and take us home.
Hey, thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid courage.